Muted.
All right, it is 10 o'clock. We will call this meeting to order. So welcome all members, staff, and guests. Marks in the chair. Discussing possible action, or no, roll call. Sorry, I didn't say it on there. I almost forgot roll call.
Okay, I can do that. Lee,
Here.
Mike Morgan,
Here.
Stephanie, Randy,
Here.
Tressa, Mike Marlowe,
Here.
Ed,
Here.
Rondalyn,
Here.
Cole,
Here.
and then I believe I see Commissioner Lerner present as our committee liaison.
Yes, I'm here.
All right, so we're only missing one. Discussion possible any action to excuse any committee members' absence, if any. Hearing none. Move on. Number 4, ratification of the minutes of the July 14th meeting. Those were sent out previously. Does anybody have any modifications for those minutes? Hearing none, those will stand ratified as presented. Number 5, general comments from visitors or written comments on non-agenda items. Do we have any written comments?
Nothing so far.
All right. You gotta say your name.
Hi, my name is Susie Warren Regan. I'm with QRS Inspections and it's a KCE. I would like to say thank you to Lee for all your years of service. And I wanted to make sure that you had everything that you needed. Last meeting.
Ooh, there are a lot of snacks today.
Yep. The snack man. Make sure that you have all your M&Ms and peanuts and your
I don't know where I'm gonna fit my kolaches on the way back.
right. So thank you for
Thank you very
everything.
much. Ooh, lots of chocolate. No, I'm not sharing. Just okay. Thank you very much. All right. Item number 6, reports from subcommittees. Education, Mr. Morgan.
Yeah, so we met a couple of weeks ago. Main topic of discussion was, do we want to require completion of all the coursework before beginning the practicum? And we decided that is a good idea, and we're recommending that. And I know that there's an agenda item where we're going to discuss that later. The other thing that we discussed didn't really come to a resolution, but we threw it around is, do we want the 5 inspection reports that are created during the practicum to be turned in somehow for a random review / audit? And if so, who does that? It was just kind of a point of discussion. No, we're not even for a specific recommendation, but we'll probably be discussing that further at some point.
Might not be a bad idea to see if they're even using the right form. Okay. Any questions for Mr. Morgan? Okay. It is coming up on an agenda item, so we'll discuss that here in a little bit. SOP subcommittee, Mr. Bayer.
Yes, we met a few weeks ago, finished the optional systems review, and we are meeting at the adjournment of this meeting to finish up the final review of the preamble, and then we should have our final draft to review all the changes, get that approved in the committee meeting, subcommittee meeting, and then run it up the flagpole.
Okay. And then we have it's on the agenda item also to look at the report form and the proposed changes. Staff reports, executive decision or division decision.
Executive division. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just in time. Good morning. I'm remote today. I know there are some children in our office because it's fall break, and instead I took my child to the lake. So I come to you from Lake LBJ. But it's good to see you remotely. I'm going to just mention the Realm portal. It affects inspectors, but it also affects our entire license holder community and our internal staff. The Realm portal is the licensing database, kind of the back-end system that we use, that we're replacing, that we've been working on replacing for the last couple of years. It's been an expensive project. We are currently on a system called Versa, and we are moving over to what we are calling the Realm Portal. And just today, we will begin talking about what that specific transition looks like. And essentially, it means that we will be transitioning to that new system in early December, starting close of business December 2nd, and then rolling out that new system publicly on December 10th. And that means we'll have some time where we are in that transition with many of our services unavailable online as we make that transition. So Summer and Sierra have been working really hard to communicate that to our world, to kind of figure out how best to communicate that to our license holders. And those communications will begin today as our staff just continues all of the many moving parts associated with that transition. We have people working 7 days a week to make sure this transition is a success. I'm really proud of the work that our staff has put in and continues to put in kind of at this kind of late hour in the project. But I think we're really excited to be on the other side of it and look forward to showing it all to you. There's other things that I could report to you on, but I think that's the biggest piece that we're working on internally. I'm happy to answer any questions on that or anything else you have for me.
At one point when we were talking about that, TREIC was going to allow people to renew up to 120 days instead of 90 days out, just as a way to kind of preempt any possible problems. How did that go? Did we get a lot of early renewals?
For the last couple of months, we've been doing that. We've basically been notifying people of their renewal period, like 30 days earlier than we typically do. And I think that is going well. I do not have numbers for you on if we are seeing abnormally early renewals. We will, our communications from today until December will kind of ramp up on that renew early message. And we have some ideas of how to kind of even target some of the big brokerages to ensure that there's no like unintended consequences like in that kind of late November, early December timeline. So that is one of the tools, Lee, that we're kind of employing in order to make sure this is a success.
Cool. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions for Chelsea? Enforcement, Mr. Malloy, or excuse me, Mr. Atria.
Thank you.
I saw Mike earlier.
Tony Renteria, liaison to the inspector committee. So I hear this is your last meeting.
That's what they say.
And
13 years.
Before I proceed to the report, I just want to express my appreciation for your leadership.
Thank you.
I think certainly during your leadership, there's been a period of growth in the committee. And, you certainly moved the inspector profession in a positive direction.
Thank you.
Personally, I appreciate your, the expertise that you brought to enforcement, your guidance with enforcement matters. At times, we deal with difficult issues, and we rely on the expertise of the committee members. And certainly your contributions were invaluable to our job. And, on a personal level, although we didn't always agree, there was always mutual respect. And personally, I enjoyed working with you.
Thank you.
So I just want to say I wish you well.
Thank you.
You're here. From all of us, we will miss you, and you've done a lot. So thank you.
Thank you.
And moving on to the enforcement report, there are 4 cases since the last meeting. Certainly, if you have any questions, just let me know. John and myself are available to answer questions regarding these cases.
I do have a question, and I don't remember which case, but I was reading through them this weekend. One of somebody was disciplined for multiple things, but one thing was because they did not check the not inspected box because they did not inspect the entire attic. I believe it was attic, which concerns me because if somebody's going to be disciplined for that, that means that we should check the NI box for everything because we're never going to inspect the entire, every inch of the roof or the walls or the foundation. So that was a question and concern that I had. And if I need to, I can go back through them and find that, but
I think you're
Catch my
referring to case number 252234. And I think you're referring to failing to report the vantage point from which the attic space was inspected. So I think that's the actual violation that we charge in the conclusion of law.
okay.
Yeah, it was item number 6.
So I can have John. I think, John, this is your case. He is joining us remotely. So I
No,
can have-
okay. This is not
That's not the one.
it because it specifically said he failed to mark NI.
Let's look at the crawl space one.
The crawl space.
Was that the one that had a scuttle hole that he didn't have?
Let's see.
It's been yesterday. It's been 24 hours.
So was it the attic or was it the crawl space?
I thought it was attic, but I could be
Because the only one that shows anything about the attic is that one, that order.
Would it be okay for us to move on and I find
Yeah,
out
we can
some
move
more
on,
from
and
that?
of course, if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer.
Okay, because yeah, I'm sure I can find it here momentarily.
All right, anybody else have any other questions about these cases?
Nope.
Okay, we can certainly come back.
It was probably actually one of the older ones, not one of the newer ones.
Yeah.
And I may have just found it.
So the NI on the attic issue has come up before, and it's a great point that you're never going to be able to inspect the entire thing. You have insulation, whatever, that's concealing portions of it. So, this goes back to the whole, are the NI box, is the NI box even, useful anymore?
So
Yeah.
there's an inspection instruction sheet that this committee drafted specifically on how to address checking multiple boxes. And it gives instructions to the inspectors on how to check, what situations it's appropriate to check multiple boxes. So I suggest, we may want to take a look at that whenever there's questions, because that provides some guidance from the committee. And basically what it says is that if you check a box, you need to explain why you checked it.
You check more than one box.
Multiple boxes.
Yeah. And I think the issue with the not inspected, especially with like the attic, because there's always certain parts you can't, even if you put inspected, if you put an item in the comment that say certain areas could not be inspected, at least you're covering that base and letting the consumer know that not 100% of the attic was done.
Yeah.
Even if you don't check NI, that comment is still in there. So
Yeah.
that's
And I do that all the time,
Right.
but I don't want somebody being penalized for inspecting 20% of the attic, but not being able to access the rest of it. And not,
and as long as they have, I think as long as they have that
Marking NI.
disclaimer in their reports and
Yeah.
let their client know that they didn't pull all the insulation out and look at all everything underneath.
Yeah, that kind of falls a little bit under the departure provision. If you're not able to inspect a system or component, then you need to indicate it in the report. Like Lee was saying, you got to let the client know.
So I'm hearing we either check the NI box and explain, or just simply explain in the comments section that not all areas were accessible or available for inspection.
Well, they're two separate things.
Well, because when we look at the instructions for the form, right, it says we can check 2 boxes, 3 boxes, 4 boxes, but again, for every box we check, we have to give an explanation, with the exception of the inspected box, right? So
Yeah,
what
if
I
check
hear
more
you,
than one box, then
So-
then an explanation is required.
what I hear you saying is if I say not all areas were visible from this vantage point, and there may be things that were not visible or could be inspected, that is sufficient, and that I'm not also required to check the not inspected box.
See, I wouldn't necessarily write that it was deficient. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean there's something deficient.
Sorry, I take that back. Yeah, as long as I describe that not everything could be inspected, I state my limitations, it's not necessary to check the NI box.
That's how I read it.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's how
And that's how I've always done it.
That's
Yeah,
how
correct.
I've
I agree.
always
Yeah.
operated. I just wanted to make sure that Mike's concerned that if you have a limitation and you state the limitation, that you are not going to be penalized for not checking the NI box, even though you've fully stated your limitation in the comments
Right.
section.
Now, in this particular case, it may have just been that they had put in inspected, put in, this much depth of insulation or whatever the case, but didn't put any limitation in there as to what they couldn't see. And then somebody found something later
Yeah.
and goes, oh, well, I didn't,
Okay.
and there was no limitation.
Just want to make sure we're all clear.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
absolutely.
We don't have to do both.
That could be the issue. And I know this is something that was debated
Yeah.
about checking the
And some software won't let you check inspected and not inspected.
uninspected.
We
Yeah,
talked about this the
So,
last
yeah,
meeting,
yeah.
and and where it's relevant.
because there was some disagreement
I think we just get rid of the inspected box.
whether you should check both boxes. And I think there's a split. But we're just going with whatever the instruction sheet says.
Yeah.
But, we try to be, from our perspective, enforcement, we try to be fair and we try to be logical. And we only try to penalize, wrongful conduct. So if we can, sort of make sense of what the inspector's trying to do the right thing, then, certainly we don't penalize them for that. But it could be what Lee said, that maybe there wasn't a limitation included. Now that falls into the departure provision. That would be a problem.
And the hard part is when you read some of those, we tend to read them as individual line items, whereas enforcement put in there, hey, it's probably not a bad idea to put a limitation or put not inspected if you're going to do that. But it was the other 10 things that went wrong that you're actually being hit with disciplinary action for. Not
That's
this.
true.
We're just putting this in as a suggestion. But when you read that as an individual line item, it kind of looks like, wait, now I have to do this or I'm going to get fined. And it's not.
That's true, and that's a good point because, like Lee mentioned, sometimes we do put in, when we're doing an order, that order is intended to address some of the issues that this particular inspector didn't do right. So some of those things are going to be a violation, and those violations are outlined in the conclusions of law. This is what the violation is. But in doing that, we may include a mitigation statement that the inspector now understands that he should do this, this, and this.
And I did find it.
We knew if we stalled long enough, we give you enough time.
Well, having never filled this form out before, what I just heard is I could just blanketly click inspected on everything on the form. And if I didn't inspect it, I just write not inspected in a little blank. And so I've fulfilled the duties of what I should do on this form.
Well, that's why I think the inspected box is redundant, because the thought process is by our standards, you have to inspect it. If you don't, then there has to be a limitation. So you put not inspected or not present or whatever the case may
Well, I
be.
think if you check the non-inspected box or the deficient box, it obligates you to make a comment as to why you didn't inspect it. And if it is, you found a deficiency, what the deficiency was. I think the only ones that don't require further comment is inspected and not present. Because if it's not present, I can't inspect it.
I was just being, from the explanation I heard, you could technically check inspected and put not inspected and you're covered.
Yeah, no.
What was the one?
That was the description I heard.
What was the one you're looking at?
It's 243624, item 6.
I think we've had this one a couple of times.
This is an older one, but
Yeah.
it was on the list. So
243-624.
That was last year, September 24.
Yeah, he didn't check the D box.
It says he failed to mark the not inspected box.
Which
But
I,
he had the limitation statement in there.
He had the limitation statement.
Oh, number 6.
He didn't inspect a lot of it, but it said he could inspect it from some
Yeah, he did
opening
put a
in the
limitation
crawl space.
statement.
so then was that a mitigation statement or was that something that was a disciplinary action?
If you can give me a moment, I don't review the
Oh.
old cases, so I need to kind of review
But I
it.
can tell you, I've done number 6 where, I can only access certain part of it. One, there's 2 attic access, one is available, one isn't. I just put inspected, but I put the limitation.
Yeah,
They could not act.
I can get my-
The attic access was sealed or whatever the
That's
case may be.
exactly what we all just said that we do as a part of our
Yeah.
regular course of business.
Yeah,
So
number
if that's
6 kind
wrong,
of contradicts what
Good
we
catch.
just said
Yeah.
about putting the limitation
I think we talked
and
about
not
this
check
last
the
one, too.
NI box, but this
Yeah.
just says that he didn't check the NI box, even though he put the limitation.
So sometimes we mention a fact, like a series of this happened, this happened, this happened. But that doesn't mean that that is the violation.
Right.
That would be just information as to what happened. In this case, what I'm looking at is there's 22 paragraphs that includes facts.
Yeah.
My concern is I just don't want
Yeah, not every
inspectors to read
paragraph.
this and think they
Yeah, I
must
think this
check
one
the
was-
NI
yeah.
box. And
Yeah,
that's,
the violations, when I look at the bottom, the violations is that there was a negligence, something was done negligently. And then the second one was that he didn't use the proper
proper
inspection
form.
form. So those are the 2 violations. And it looks like when we're explaining what he did wrong, we're saying that he has to check the appropriate box for every item on the property inspection report form, and that the deficient box must be checked when a component or system exhibits a deficiency. Additionally, a respondent should check the not inspected box when a component or system is present but cannot be fully inspected due to existing conditions.
cannot be fully inspected.
And that's,
I don't
know.
that's
I know.
what he's talking about.
Yeah,
I understand that there's
I
only 2
think-
violations, but number 6.
I think we talked about this one when it came up at the time. And if I recall correctly, we're citing the instruction sheet when we're giving these instructions. Is
So
that-
I'm
am I
just gonna say
incorrect?
that the instructions sheet says that the inspector may, for example, it does not say it is mandated or shall or must.
I think in this particular case, number 6 is.
Well, we're saying should here. We're not saying
But
shall.
It's not really should, because when I go into an occupied house, I can guarantee you there's going to be electrical outlets I can't get to. So do I need to check branch circuits not inspected because I didn't check every receptacle? I mean, it's same sort of thing.
Or is the departure statement adequate for saying not all receptacles could be accessed because the home was occupied? And
Yeah.
Well, you're also not required to get outlets that are, on the ceiling. You're not required to use
And
electric.
am I going to move this sofa so I can check the part of the wall behind it?
Yeah, we put like a simple line, say due to furniture restrictions, not all receptacles could be tested for polarity.
So
I-
either way, this is not the violation.
Right. I understand there's only the 2 violations that are listed below, but I do agree with Mike that I think number 6 is incorrect. Because an inspector is going to read this, because a lot of inspectors read through these disciplinary actions as a means to what not to do.
Yeah.
And they read number 6 and go, oh, wait, now I have to put inspected and not inspected in that if I can't access all the attic. And because that comes across as if that's a violation, and actually it isn't, because they put the explanation in there as to what could not be inspected.
And that's my whole concern is just the confusion that
Yeah.
that this might cause to somebody reading it, thinking, oh, I've got it
Yeah,
marked NI.
Because then the
every time.
consumer sees not inspected and calls you freaking out that you didn't get in the attic.
Well, we have an opportunity to review the form after this meeting. We might need to add the instruction form onto our agenda since it's complementary to the form, right, Randy?
We can look at
It's
it.
always a positive. So you're saying there's a chance.
Yes.
All right. So any other questions for enforcement? If we beat that horse.
I think we beat it.
I have one final comment. I just wanted to note that we'll be at the TREIC conference this weekend, and we'll be giving a class. So
Cool.
Come and harass us, say as much as you want. Come, yeah. I hope if anyone's going there this weekend, come and say hi.
Cool.
So we look forward to the interaction with our license holders and everything like that. So. Yeah, Tony and I are going to be giving the class on Saturday, like morning into afternoon. Yeah. About
I'll be there.
top 10 types of complaints.
All right. Education and Examinations Division.
Good morning. Mike Sample-Dill, Education Manager in the Education and Examinations Division, filling in for Jen Wheeler, who's not available today. I'm going to be providing you with a high-level overview of inspector courses for fiscal year 2025. Total fiscal year 2025 data shows that we've approved a total of 7 new inspector qualifying courses and 41 qualifying course renewals. We've also approved 199 new inspector CE courses. Our highest volume of applications in general are CE providers and CE courses. On total applications approved as predicted, we fell short of the we fell just shy of fiscal year 2024's numbers. Overall, when it comes to CE providers and courses approved in general. However, the past 4 fiscal years, we've seen a steady incline, so leveling off is not surprising. Application processing times are typically greater for inspector courses, but as of now, we're completely caught up on reviews of the qualifying courses, and then we're only 4 days out on reviewing ICE course reviews. And right now, we're still accepting and reviewing applications for the new Inspector Legal and Ethics and Standards of Practice course, which became effective on September the 1st. There are currently 12 providers that are offering the new course via multiple delivery methods. I think it's 14 courses in total. This concludes my report. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mike?
Yeah. How many legal SOP providers did we have for the last go around? You say we have 14 now or 12 now?
I'd have to look. I don't have that available with me, but if it was any different than the last year, it was probably plus or minus 1 or 2 providers. It's typically the same providers every year, unless a new provider came on board that we approved last year and they've submitted their application for this course this go around.
Okay. Can you bounce like previous providers off of what you've had and reach out to any that may not have renewed, just to make sure that we're getting as much of a as many providers as possible on that one?
Yeah, we can check that.
Okay.
I think that one's kind of a supply and demand because it is a required course. So if we don't have enough, we're going to know if we're going to get a bunch of late renewals or non-renewals or people complaining that they can't find a provider. I think a lot of those providers are online.
Yeah, I think that
so
was the
people can do it just about anywhere and any time. So
yeah, and that's why I'm stressing that we make sure that we have as many as possible so that we don't run into that problem.
Yeah, I can look to see who was approved on the last course and compare it to the current one.
all right. Any other questions? All right, moving on. Licensing division.
Good morning, committee members. I'm Denise Sample, Director of Licensing. A little under the weather, so I'm joining you remotely today. If you look at page 17 of your materials, we can start with the licensing reports. These are the reports that we provide on initial applications received. This is information through the end of August of 2025. So you'll see on the bottom left corner of that page, the inspector applications received by type. And this is full fiscal year data that's being presented here. The next page shows carryover of easement and right-of-way registration applications and then business entity registrations. So you'll want to go to the next page, 19, to look at the inspector renewal rate information. And so this compares fiscal year 2023 to fiscal year 2025. You'll see the raw numbers of renewals at the top of each bar graph, and then the percent, the renewal rate, which is a number we hone in on for revenue projections and things like that at the bottom, broken down by license type. So they appear to be holding pretty steady. We're comparing 2 years. We primarily look at professional inspectors because the nature of real estate and apprentice is generally those licenses aren't held for very long. The goal is eventually upgrading to a professional inspector license. The next page, page 20, is license and registration counts. So you'll see towards the center, the lower half of that chart, the inspectors broken out, and this is all of them lumped together. A 13-month comparison, we ended with 4,421, and 3,600 of those were active. And so then you'll see the total license holders and inspectors broken down by month there. The next page shows in yellow the inspector license holder counts. A 13-month comparison there, it's broken out by inspectors. And the last page, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Don't mind him.
Then the last report is the application processing time. So we've got a goal of 14 calendar days to provide a response on an application or to documents submitted for an application. And this is a 13-month comparison as well. You'll see the inspectors broken out by type kind of in the center of this chart. And we're well within that 14-day goal for the month of August in processing inspector applications. The lower half, it just shows a monthly breakdown of apps received just to kind of give a comparison, but it's not truly apples to apples. It could take longer for someone to provide us documents and cross over into another month, but it's kind of a guide. But with that concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions y'all might have.
Anybody have any questions for Denise? All right, hearing none, we'll move on. Item 8, discussion of possible action regarding 22 TAC 535-214, education and experience requirements for a license related to requiring completion of coursework prior to beginning Texas Practicum and the Texas Practicum credit request form. So this is education subcommittee worked on this. The thought process behind this was when we revamped the entire pre-licensure process, no one really thought about the fact that we might. Everybody knew the idea was to finish your coursework and then do the practicum. We didn't think we actually had to put a rule into place to say you had to finish the coursework before you did the practicum, but apparently we do, because it's starting to happen, and there's some, the effectiveness of this is getting dropped off because we were hearing feedback that some people were trying to take the practicum before they even taken any of the coursework, in which the whole point of the practicum is to apply the coursework, and if you don't have the coursework knowledge, so on and so forth. So that's what is on the agenda, 535-214, and there is an added item there under subsection H1. An applicant must complete all required qualifying inspection coursework before beginning the Texas Practicum. So one of the questions that I had on this, I agree with this. I think we need to put this in place. What happens if they don't?
So that's one of the conversations that we had at the subcommittee level too, just for purposes of full transparency. So if they do this out of order under this rule, or let's say they take one class and then take the practicum, what this does, the consequence of that is that you don't get credit for it. And so that's something to think about, what that impact is, if there is one. But just just something to be aware of.
Okay, so if they do 2 inspections prior to completing their coursework, they aren't going to get credit for those 2 inspections. Okay. Will there be a grace period in which people that may already be in a position now that they've already done some of that, to where it's a small window of time where they will get credit for it, or will this just be as soon as it's in effect, boom, it's done?
So there is some flexibility with rulemaking where you can push the effective date out. And so, sometimes where it's a big change, we've done that where we kind of push it out a bit further than it would ordinarily be to give folks a time to kind of update and adapt to that. We could do that here. If the committee decides to recommend this for proposal, we wouldn't, obviously we're still at the potential for proposal stage at the commission. So that's kind of down the line. But sometimes, we do that, and then in conjunction with that, we'll do some education pieces, communications, that kind of thing.
Figure if we propose it at this meeting, it goes to the commission at the November meeting, and we have the 3-month period. Earliest time they would, adopt it would be February. I think that's plenty of time. I think that's plenty of time.
And then after that, you can have it pushed out, if you want to.
Need to. I wouldn't think we would need. I think at that point, especially if Summer's putting it out on any type of communication, that should anybody who's trying to get in the industry is probably going to be paying attention. Certainly, the education provider should be paying attention to it. So. All right. Any other questions on this agenda item or comments?
So you do want to move forward? I would say probably make a motion. Oh, and Denise has got her hand up.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I had a quick clarification question for an effective date, and I wanted to really confirm this with General Counsel Abby Lee. When it says an applicant must complete, is this going to be like it would be based on when they submitted an application?
I think so. Yeah, we'd have to.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that's right.
Okay, and really, I wanted for the benefit of everyone to understand that when we say an applicant, typically the line in the sand is drawn at the application date.
Yeah, that's a good point.
All right. Hearing anything else, we'll entertain a motion to propose said rule to the commission.
Make a motion that we propose this change.
Motion for proposal by Mike. Second by Stephanie. Any other discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries. Item number 9, discussion possible action regarding draft changes to the SOP 22 TAC 535-227 through 535-233. Mr. Randy, I'll let you take this one.
And Kat can also, she's prepared to kind of walk through the drafts as well.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Good morning, everyone. Kathleen Santos, Deputy General Counsel. So the first change begins on page 30, 535-227. It's not there. And here we have added language related to the retention of inspection reports for 4 years. And this coincides with the 4-year statute of limitation. I think it's something that staff brought up, Tony, specifically to be added to the rule. Question?
So before we go too far, my suggestion on these would be, as we're going through these, we just kind of hit on these one by one. If we have any questions or concerns or comments, we just kind of take it all the way through and go forward. My initial thought process in this is that this is our first draft that the full committee has seen. We take a gander at it. I would not anticipate that we would propose full thing right now, especially because I know you guys are still meeting, discussing the form. But at the very least, we at least get some initial feedback to send it back to the subcommittee, and we kind of move forward from there. But, okay.
With that, the next change is on page 35, and we're in 228. We have the language added here, materials by walking the surface of the roof. And then there's a corresponding change just a little bit down the page. Again, inspect the roof from the surface of the roof. Language here.
So I'm assuming this is to help enforcement make this a lot more clear that you're actually supposed to be walking the roof.
Yeah, I think we had a really good, productive discussion about how the inspection should be performed. And I think because of the language that was used previously, there was some misunderstanding of, whether the inspector had to walk the roof or not. But looking at, the various sections, it was clear that there was an intent to walk the roof. So I think, what the subcommittee decided is to make it clear by using the word walking.
Yeah, we want to make sure the inspector can walk the roof whenever possible.
Yep.
First and foremost, walk the roof. Because part of this, a lot of the problems was inspectors were thinking they can just use, like the use of the drones, which was coming up, and then that was okay for you to use a drone to inspect the roof. We said, no, you actually have to get on, because as Tony had mentioned, there's some of the areas where a drone can't actually go sideways and look up under there, up under like different levels. We have rate walls and different levels of roofs, and you really need to make every effort to get on the roof.
Plus, when you walk, you can't feel the decking underneath
Yeah,
your
you really
feet.
soft spots.
Yeah, absolutely.
Correct.
Yeah.
When possible, make every effort to get on the roof and walk.
I have a question, and this actually is not part of the change because it's not in blue, but so the only time the inspector doesn't have to walk the roof is if it's not safe or if significant damage will be done. Well, significant concerns me, but I guess it's already been that.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, it's been there for a while. It's basically if you go up and you see there's some serious granule loss, and you know that getting up there, you're gonna cause a lot more granule loss by doing it. There's always going to be some minor, but
some of the metal roofs.
Yeah, the tile roof.
Tile
Yes.
roofs are
Tile roofs. Yeah.
Definitely.
And it's part of the departure. They have to, the inspector needs to document why.
Yeah.
So I think in there, in documenting, they'll probably explain, what the issue was, or they should.
Do we just take out significant?
My problem is if we take out significant, if you just leave the image in there, you're going to get people that will not walk the roof, because anytime I put my shoe on a shingle, technically it's causing damage.
You're gonna scuff it.
You're going to scuff it and you're going to cause a problem. And people are going to use that as an out to not walk the roof.
I mean, significant is already a judgmental process, so.
And it's still in the reasonable judgment of the inspector.
Right.
So.
I think the most common example that I see is tile roofs.
Yeah.
And certainly, on those, walking them could cause the tiles to break.
Yep. Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
A concrete tile I'll walk all day, but clay tile, nope.
Yeah, I get it. All right. So we good with those two changes on 35?
On the next change is going to be on page 37.
Okay, before that, previous page, the roof structures and attic, the inspector is not required to enter, yeah, there you go, enter attics or unfinished space. What about where there's a lack of flooring or lack of something to walk on? Are we telling inspectors here that if it's over 30 inches, you got to crawl across the rafters?
Yeah, if you don't have flooring, you still got to go up in the attic, at least from the scuttle, and you have to say the vantage point in which it was inspected. So you say the scuttle.
And then evoke departure.
And then a departure.
Yeah, it's a location piece so departure. So you have to document.
Yeah, it doesn't have to say you have to enter, you just have to look.
Yep.
I think we're on page 37 now.
Yep.
And here we're adding the language, the presence of doors and emergency escape and rescue openings that require key or special knowledge or effort. This is some language that's modeled from the IRC. And I think what prompted this change was identifying the double cylinder.
Right. Basically, we're just saying a lot of times inspectors, we just want any presence of a double cylinder deadbolt to be called out as a deficiency. And I think a lot of inspectors were saying, well, as long as there was a key in that double cylinder deadbolt, it was okay. Which defeats the purpose. So we're making it very clear that if there's a double cylinder deadbolt, then it's a deficiency.
It's a safety issue, so we just wanted to make it clear, what.
Because the key's not there, they have to get the key in order to get out of the house.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of the fire.
It would also capture like screws and the sidewall or like burglar bars. So the
right. So that
it encompasses everything.
Correct.
Basically, it's just the thought process from what I read was to get inspectors to think about emergency egress and can you get out easily?
Can you get out if there's a fire?
Then why are we deleting that section that says the absence of performing rescue opening and sleeping rooms?
Because it encompasses pretty much the same thing.
No.
You're
reporting the presence of doors and emergency escape rescue openings that require a key or special knowledge or effort. But we've taken out the complete lack of it.
You're taking out the fact that they're performing.
The absence of. So if there's not a window that opens in a sleeping room where required, I agree.
Yeah.
So I don't know where, this, I didn't bring any of my handwritten notes here.
Maybe we need to keep that in.
Yep.
Gotta go back
Just
to
add an or and then continue with what you've got redlined.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, we're meeting again, and I think we should take another look, because we had a disagreement on this one where there should be presence or absence, so maybe we need to.
Maybe adding both. That's a good point. I can see where you're kind of taking out.
I thought we were modeling. Okay. I thought we were modeling the language from the IRC, but I don't know what the actual language says.
Maybe add that as just take the red line and put it back in and have both.
Yeah, I think
put it over between. Have us both. All right, so it's good. It's a good catch. So that's something we can. That's what we can look at with their meeting.
Staying on that same page, missing or damaged screens. Missing screens not required by the IRC.
Correct.
So
we're also not code inspectors.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, are we as TREIC saying that every house has to have a screen on any openable window?
That's what TREIC is saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, because a lot of the builders are not including them anymore, nor will they, and but I'm saying it's not a requirement code wise. So
also, deficiency is not something that somebody has to fix. It's
true.
Information.
Yeah, that could be something that the buyer may want to know if they're missing. Sometimes they're missing, but they're in the garage.
Or in the attic.
Or in one is you have all the screens installed and one's missing, and there's the ones that are installed have rips and tears in them.
Yeah. And that's an additional cost for the buyer.
Yeah.
So it's just more for their information.
Well, my next question is, who in Texas actually opens their windows?
I do.
I do.
You're the rarity.
About that month in the spring and that month in the fall,
But for two reasons. They have to be open, not just for ventilation, but also for safety reasons.
Yeah. And egress.
Yep.
Okay. But
especially if you don't have a fan in the bathroom, you have to have a window.
It's true.
You have to have an insect screen.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's
40.
We're still on 37. There's just one change. It's a solid or honeycomb core steel plate. They're just a few lines down.
Oh yeah, sure. Blue. Yep.
Moving on. Yes, the next one is on page 40, and we are in electrical systems. And here we're just adding additional information on the workspace area, adding 30 inches in width. And then the next one is on.
Hang on, real quick. Go ahead.
Scott Regan, QS Inspections, and it's OKCE. If we're adding in the 30-inch clearance, 36 in front, why are we missing the 78 of height clearance? You can't have anything in that height group. And above the electrical panel, that is 78 inches.
So it may be a good idea.
That is true. We could do that
in there.
That exceeds the max height.
Right. Thank you.
all right. Under deficiencies in G, number 4, what the overcurrent device and circuit for labeled and listed 250 volt appliances. That are we just doing 250? Or are we doing 125? What are we looking for there? That just doesn't read clear to me. Maybe it's just me.
The 125 is done in the branch circuits. It's not.
No, it's still on that same page.
No, I know. I was wondering if your comment there, if that is covered in the branch circuit part. I hadn't looked in a long time, so I don't.
There's an additional section that talks about.
Yeah, deficiencies in 125 receptacles is in branch circuits, but so is deficiency.
Right, but it doesn't
50.
Doesn't say the overcurrent
No, it
device
doesn't.
in reference. I see where he's. Maybe add that for the 125.
Yeah, hold on, I lost my page.
125 and
40,
250.
go back. 40, okay, 40.
G4.
I'm gonna move on with these notes and save that for the next meeting.
Well, that's why I'm just trying to get everybody's kind of idea if to at least give them some direction.
Yep. And then H3 antioxidant, can we get rid of that, please? Because it's not required in almost any case, it's not actually required. It's a nice to have. Yeah.
It's always been there, but it's true that it's in reality it's probably never there. So it's called as a deficiency.
Yeah.
They don't see it.
Not required. Why am I still seeing it on main service lines that are aluminum coming into service?
Yeah, because they're locked.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is it's not actually required. Electricians have been trained by us to just add it, and they're not even adding it correctly. They're just adding it so that they don't get called out by us.
Add what the antioxidants
Yeah.
when they install it. But we don't regulate.
Well, that's actually incorrect because E3406.8 of the IRC says conductors have to have required antioxidant base. It's IRC section E3406.8.
They have to have it if required, and then the panel manufacturers and the cable and the wire manufacturers are saying, yeah, put it on if you want, but it's not required. That's where I'm going with that.
So you want inspectors to know if the panel and or the wire manufacturer should require it?
I don't know if we just call it out and you can put a disclaimer in your report that some panel manufacturers may or may not require the use of antioxidant paste to move on.
I'd rather err on the side of safety on that one, just in case.
Yeah. For us to, especially if it's a safety issue, for us to remove it, you're getting into a debate whether it should. That's not for our industry to regulate or to call out or to decide.
Because what this mostly hits on is the older houses that have aluminum branch circuit wiring going into these breakers, which they're not rated and they're not new panels, they're not new wiring. And it is required to have.
So not having it increases the risk of what?
Depletion.
Well,
it will.
The wire
it will
expands and
also-
contracts over time, and it creates a loose connection. Sparks, arcs, fire, bad.
So there's a safety reason why it should be there, and if it's not there, I think it's appropriate to call it out. And the thing is, the solution seems pretty easy. You just put some on. But you're letting the new buyer. The thing is, the new buyer comes in to occupy this new property. There's this issue there. You're making them aware. Hey, this thing you might want to put some of this antioxidant on there, and that's really what we're doing. We're looking after the best interest of the buyer, making them aware.
But to force an electrician to put it on a new house.
Well, we're not forcing anybody to do anything.
Forcing, but by calling it out.
We're putting them on notice. They have the opportunity to provide documentation to the builder and or the homeowner to demonstrate that it's not required by the manufacturer's specifications.
Put the burden on the builder and the manufacturer and let them deal with it.
Let them deal with it. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Scott
again. December 23rd, 2024, in the state of Texas, U.S. Fire Marshal responded to 137 homes that caught fire due to not oxidation. That's in the National Fire for Texas. So should stay.
Where are we on? 41?
Yes.
Change the kitchen so it serves the kitchen, not just countertops, because all that changed.
All that changed, right?
Yeah. 125 and 250 volt.
Right, we're missing attics in ground fault.
Missing
So we're
attic.
missing attics in the ground section.
Good catch. Yeah. So you can put that in your notes, add that in. You're good. Catch.
Yeah, I just say crawl space and attic receptacles and
Sure.
no, because you got lighting outlets in crawl space. So yeah, you'd probably have to do another one.
Okay. No, it's a good catch.
Go on all just one.
Well, attic's considered part of the exterior, isn't it?
No.
Under condition.
In the attic?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, otherwise it's not required on there. All right, so then we're what?
42.
42. So you changed the 3-prong. So basically what you're saying is if there's a older 4-prong in there, that we're supposed to be calling that insufficient?
No, there's a 3-point calling out.
Oh, I got you. Or the other one. Okay, got you.
Other way around.
All right.
Are 3 prongs not still allowed on, like, say, a water heater?
I'm allowed on water.
No, they're not allowed. You can't share a neutral and a ground. They have to have a separate neutral and ground.
Just now we're making them upgrade properties. Got it. Okay.
Well, you don't have receptacles on 250-volt water heaters anyway. They're usually hardwired in and a disconnect means there.
Yeah. Come on down here to San Antonio where the AHJ is allowing it.
But that's not, I mean, you've got them, but that's not correct. I mean, same thing in Corpus, but it's not correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and everywhere else.
So with the aluminum wiring up here, if you haven't noticed, it's coming back. New alloys and all.
Clad.
So, well, yeah, copper clad, and then on some stuff we're like 8-gauge, 10-gauge stuff, 30 amp. We're seeing solid strand aluminum running there too. New stuff, not even copper coated. So, where I'm going with this is, do we need to address that? Hey, this is the 1970s stuff, not the new stuff.
Yeah,
Which we expect. They're still out there.
A lot of them.
But no, I'm saying, yeah, yeah. Do we need to acknowledge that there's a difference between modern solid strand aluminum and old stuff?
I think that's a huge can of worms that if we open that in one section, these SOPs are going to be 500 pages long. I think as you guys mentioned before, we write it up and then let the builder and the manufacturer kind of come back and say, oh no, it's not required for this one, and get that explanation.
Yeah, whenever a dispute arises, whether it is or isn't a deficiency, the inspector follows the SOPs and tells the client, this is what I found, and then the client tells the seller, like, hey, we found this, and then the seller can then respond saying, okay, wait, but this one doesn't require it because of this and this and this, and then they resolve that issue, whether the buyer accepts the explanation or not, and there's no issue. So the seller can always come back if whatever the facts are different, or if the manufacturer doesn't require. I mean, those are things that they can work out. But for the inspector to be responsible to determining that, I agree. That's kind of a little too far to require them to do that.
So if you have a brand new construction house, I doubt they pulled 1970s wiring out of an old house and put it in there.
No, the vast majority of inspections we do are not on new construction. They're on pre-owned homes.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the next one is down bottom page 43. The absence of carbon monoxide alarms inside each sleeping room containing a fuel-fired appliance.
All right, so Okay, that's I was like the only thing I can think of is a fireplace in like a master bedroom.
Correct.
Where is this coming from?
Correct. That's what it is. It actually.
Okay.
Well, some of them older homes, you got gas furnace in there too, so.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I've got a gas water heater in one of our bedroom closets. So, going to, what was that 13? Absence of carbon monoxide alarms outside each. Yeah, we're also missing and on each level.
Yeah, you're right.
But it says that, oh no, that's smoke.
Outside each separate.
Yep, that's smokes. We've got it on smokes, but we don't have it on carbon.
I know, I have it on
That's
mine.
needed, carbon monoxide.
Yeah, on each level. Yeah.
We only have the.
Yeah. That's a good catch. I have that in my report. It's one of my statements, but you're right. It's not in here. So
only have the smoke.
Same.
It's good. Good catch.
Okay. Then continuing down, verify the smoke alarms are suitable. We're not required to verify that they're suitable for hearing impaired. What about visually impaired? Or how far are we going to go with that?
Sorry, where are you?
F2F.
Yeah, 2F.
Say
See, we put one
hearing impaired.
one special case, but there's multiple.
That's something we can look at next
The,
meeting.
the smoke alarms give a audible and a visual, right? 'Cause there's-
No,
No?
they're just audible.
Only in commercial. Yeah.
So visually impaired, they would hear it.
Yeah, the visually impaired would hear it. The hearing impaired would not. So that's why that's there.
It's there because there's nothing visual. There's no light flashing. That's only required in commercial.
The hearing impaired. So the hearing impaired, so we're saying.
If they can't hear it,
There's you can't hear it, we're not. So we're basically saying we're not, because the smoke alarms are not.
Yeah. Okay.
I think this is just a CYA thing because even though it's only required in commercial, it's basically just saying that
now
if they're hearing impaired, we're not required to call out
But
that
that's-
have flashing lights.
That's I mean, they're available. Like let's say a home that that houses visually impaired or hearing impaired.
Absolutely.
They can modify those, but that would be a modification from the usual.
Yeah.
Right, and it's not required the rest.
We're just saying the inspectors are not required to verify it.
Right.
Right. That would be. I mean, most of the time you don't require those.
Right. It's a CYA statement, to be honest with you. It's just to cover our base, make sure that if somebody is hearing impaired, that there isn't an expectation that we're going to be calling it out because that buyer may only be used to commercial applications of that and seeing flashing and not having to worry. Yeah. All right.
This one is on page 45. We're in page 5 now.
Before that, what about the lack of a permanently installed heat source?
Well, I tell you, we're going to be having a meeting right after this. If you'd like to join us.
Oh, well.
Well, here's the problem with that is if you have another person, it creates a quorum.
Yeah.
Yep, I tried to join y'all at your last meeting and got kicked out.
You can only have.
4. That's why he's asking the question. That's why he's doing that. So I get that. I knew where that was coming. Sorry, go back. What was your comment again, Mike?
Well, lack of a permanently installed heat source.
What item
He's talking about in the heating section?
Added in
Yep.
is sufficient.
Yep, should be part of deficient.
Page 44, A1B. So adding in lack of a permanently installed heat source.
Yeah, because you're required to have heat, and every habitable room has to have heat.
Not required to have AC, but are required to have.
Correct.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
mean, I call it already, so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
Yeah, but it's a good idea to throw it in.
But it is,
Here you go. Okay. Part of the notes.
And there's a lot of inspectors that are not calling that out. So.
All right.
But wouldn't the report say not present?
Yeah.
But
it would.
Yeah, but it should also be not present defective.
Yeah, you're supposed to have a heat supply in every habitable room.
Okay, so they would check not present, deficient.
Then deficient in that one.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. 45.
Yep, top of 45. Changing into at.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The next one I have is on page 46. The bottom, adding present and visible exposed electrical conductors or equipment.
All right, what's the thought process of that?
Yeah,
My first thought is it falls under electrical.
because sometimes when you inspect say an older home specifically that has a return air change, for example,
Okay.
you can open up the look inside and you'll see on the backside, you'll see electrical switches, you'll see plugs, you'll see cables running through that duct system
I got you.
without it being fire blocked.
Okay.
So you're saying add that along with the gas, basically encompass everything in there.
What they're saying is that they may not be visible. So if they're not visible, you don't, obviously you can't call them.
Yeah.
Right.
But if they're present and the inspector sees them, then he has to call them out.
Okay. I got you.
Moving on, page 48, these are just sections cut and pasted from appliances.
Okay. So I understand the thought process of moving these three from their current location into ventilation. My concern here is the consumers that read these reports looking for dryer vent or exhaust fans or vent hoods in the HVAC section. I think the people, I understand from an inspector perspective, the thought process of moving this stuff into the ventilation area. But from a consumer perspective and who's actually going to be reading this report, I don't understand what problem we're trying to fix by moving it.
I think what and I don't disagree with you.
I just think it becomes very
I think I'm the
confusing for a
same
consumer.
as a consumer. But I think what was expressed is that in I don't know, in the code, that's how it reads. The code is in a different section. So for the professional, like you're saying, they see it as being consistent with the code.
Completely agree.
But I agree with you with the consumer.
We're also not coding.
They think differently.
And we're also here for the consumer.
Right.
I would like to add, if the consumer reads the report, it really doesn't matter which section it's in, because they get the information, and now it's the information in the appropriate section of the report and the appropriate section of the SOP.
I would say from a consumer perspective, if you tell somebody something wrong long enough, then they'll assume it's wrong from there on out.
There's
So
that.
stop telling them
There's
it's in
that.
the wrong section.
And that is true. That is true. If we move it, they're still going to report it. But whatever deficiency, I mean, it's the same thing. It's just in a different section.
Right. I mean, but you look from, hey, what was that thing about the vent hood? Oh, let me look in the HVAC section for the vent.
That's where it belongs.
It's
Because
just,
it's
From our
ventilation.
standpoint, yeah.
Yeah, you're thinking more of the appliance of the actual hood itself.
right.
Yeah.
Appliance.
Right. Because the recirculating air vent hoods have no vent. It just recirculates the air. There's no vent there.
Yeah.
So now it's in the HVAC section, but there's no vent.
My question is if you turn it on, does it affect the mechanical system?
It could.
Is in the central air conditioning and heat?
It could,
Absolutely.
but it doesn't always, but it could, depending on its configuration.
In size, yeah.
Whose size is that? The appliance guy or the mechanical contractor?
Should be the mechanical contractor.
And sometimes they don't even put it in all the way.
I said, I get it from the code side. I completely understand where that falls in there. I'm looking at it as a consumer. If I'm looking for exhaust or vent hoods and exhaust fans,
So
most logical. And if this is really the key component as to why we're changing the form, we're asking 4,000 people to update a form to move these sections, which I think is just going to confuse the consumers even more.
So from the consumer perspective,
Sure.
right? First is code. Second, it's air conditioning as licensed by the state of Texas. And third, again, just because it's been in the wrong place and you say that's less confusing, that's just teaching someone the wrong thing. If you put it in the right section after a time period, it'll be in the correct section. Consumer will realize that it's supposed to be in that section. It's heating, ventilation, or air conditioning. The other suggestion was just make it heating and cooling and take ventilation out of the title and make the other one appliances and ventilation. I mean,
Which
again,
I-
it needs,
Yeah.
it's not just code, it's the contractors and the people that install it and are involved with fixing it, repairing it, or otherwise. You don't call an appliance guy to fix your dryer vent, you call an air conditioning guy to fix your dryer vent. So if you tell a consumer to call the appliance guy, then that's confusing.
And again, as long as we are giving the consumer the information they need for consumer protection, I don't think it really matters what section of the report it is in, if it's in an appropriate section and it gives them the information that they need for the purpose of consumer protection.
So we have a vent hood that recirculates air. Where do we put that? Because it has nothing to do with HVAC.
It absolutely affects the function of the HVAC.
Not if it's a recirculating air vent hood. There's no displacement of air. It's just like an oscillating fan you have in your house, a ceiling fan. There's no displacement.
Yeah, but we can get into other items on that. A recirculating exhaust fan is actually not even allowed if you don't have fresh air ventilation to open a window in the kitchen area or some type of makeup. Yeah. So, which goes back to ventilation.
And the ICC.
Right. You can have an open, but it's got to be in the kitchen area.
Like I said, I understand the technical
Or you
aspect.
can even have like a bathroom exhaust fan, something to take it out.
I understand the technical aspect of moving. I'm kind of looking at, I understand from a consumer perspective, it's just, I want to say if I'm reading through it and I look for appliances and I see dishwasher, range, vent hood, I mean, it goes with it.
So I would add this. Having gas in the plumbing section also confuses the consumer, because when they think of plumbing, they think of water, not of gas. But we as professionals know that the plumber is responsible for gas piping as well as water piping. I don't see a difference here between having gas and plumbing where it belongs and mechanical where it belongs.
Well, then if we're going to do that, then I would suggest we do heating and cooling and separate the ventilation out. If we're gonna kind of play this to move those as ventilation sections, and if we're gonna actually create a new report, a new form,
right,
then I'd rather do it once. And if that's the case, then if you want to move those back up, then I think we need to separate ventilation section out.
And we can look at that. Just keep in mind what we're doing here today, just kind of get feedback.
Right,
We're not asking for any approval on anything.
Absolutely.
This is just exactly what we're doing. To throw these up to go back.
Scott.
So most of y'all know me, Scott Regan. Most of y'all know me. I've actually owned and operated my own air conditioning company for almost 33 years right now. I've never worked on a vent hood or installed one. During construction, it is done by their handyman, whoever they're doing it, or the people that they buy the appliances because it's part of their appliance package. The vent hood is not for the HVAC company. The piping that connects to it to go to the outside and how it's configured is by the HVAC company. That is correct, but the vent hood itself is not part of the HVAC.
Correct.
For residential, because it's not necessarily the case for commercial. And I know we're talking about residential inspections, but as far as HVAC, it is part of the heating, especially if you need makeup air.
No, I'm saying the vent pipe is. The appliance is not part of the HVAC. The hood itself.
It depends on the contract. Sometimes the kitchen supplier supplies it, sometimes the HVAC.
I'm an entire builder, and I agree with you 100%. Yeah, pipes installed typically, but we're also required to inspect that duct system, the termination, the backdraft dampers, which is all part of the ventilation.
With you, I'm just saying.
I think that's kind of where we're.
The hood is the question. Where
yeah, basically the hood as an appliance. We'll look at maybe keeping that part of the appliance section, but we're talking more about the ventilation, the piping.
I can see the dryer vent
itself.
Absolutely no.
That
was kind of the.
Can I suggest something? Can we look at the inspection report form the way it looks right now?
Yeah.
I think if we can get a visual, can we put it up, please?
Yeah, Amber, that's number 10.
Inspection report form,
It's in the
the
materials.
appliance section. Let's take a look at what it looks like. I think that'll give us a better visual of what.
Yeah, page
what the
63
buyer
is where that first
consumer looks at when they're looking.
Go down the next page.
Yeah, right there.
There you go. Thank you.
Appliance, all the way to appliance. A little further. Oh, that's right there. Oh, no. Oh, that's the.
Well, this
That's
is
the new one. That's the new one. Well, this is just the red line version. They don't have the old one. you go down and it has the red line area where we took it out of appliance.
This is how it would look now, the way that it's being proposed.
Correct.
But the way it looks now,
Amber, can you go to page 64? Thank you.
That's what is being proposed to be taken out.
so that's how the consumer's looking at it. And I agree, the range hood is connected to the appliance. In the consumer's mind, it is part of the appliance. I mean, I hear the rationale, and it's right next to the range, the cooktop and ovens, so that kind of seems logical. I understand the mechanical exhaust, that's maybe, a different situation, but
I mean, I could see mechanical exhaust and dryer vents being under ventilation, but the range hood itself to me is still an appliance.
yeah, I kind of agree with Lee with the range hood.
So then do we retitle that range hood, take off and exhaust systems and put it back under appliances?
And that's what we'll look at.
Okay.
Yeah. And possibly.
I don't know about that because range hood is just one way you can ventilate your.
You have her cake needed too. Can we?
Well, I think we've kind of beat this one up pretty good. And I think there's certainly some talk points you guys can go over. Unfortunately, without getting into quorum issues by too many people joining at that next meeting, we got to let the subcommittee do what they need to do and what they're tasked to do. One possibility that, like I said, mentioning is doing heating and air conditioning and maybe separating ventilation out, in another way. If we're gonna change the report and we're gonna make 4,000 people do a new report, I want it to be something that's not gonna have to change for a good amount of time.
The split would make sense to me.
Yeah.
Because it's a win-win.
Last one, I promise.
That's fine. I don't believe.
We already have it. If you look at C, it says and vents. Can we actually add it to that area? Because that's what we're talking about, is ventilation is in that area.
Let's see where we're looking at.
Ducts,
Ducts, systems, chases, and vents.
Vents, and then say, and exhaust vents. Because that's what you're talking about, the dryer or whatever. But I'm just,
Yeah, well,
when we were talking about, when y'all meet, that's.
Okay. All right. So those are those three sections that was on page 48 that we looked at.
Put it in.
So the next change was on 49, if I'm reading that correctly.
Let me go back.
That's under,
fast.
49.
Yeah, for deficiencies, the last one there, the condition of the gas distribution system, why is that under plumbing and not under gas?
all right, where are you at? Sorry.
Right there where she's highlighting, or whoever's highlighting, sorry. This is the plumbing section and we have a gas section.
Gas.
I think that just got left accidentally.
You're talking about moving it down to D where it says gas distribution systems?
I just talk about getting rid of it. It's like it's a redundancy.
Yeah. Yep.
Delete that one.
Yeah, probably delete that one. And then on the next page, we also have a gas on 3 there, inaccessible gas supply systems components for leaks. So those should be down. They should be down in the gas system. I
probably got left in there.
Left in there from before.
You make a note to move those.
Dance right over it.
Yep, it happens. All right, so we're some 49.
But we're still back on
Yeah, let's go back to 49 and where that change was, including when irrigation systems are installed. So you're basically just saying that even if they're not inspecting the sprinklers, that they should check that a backflow device is on the.
Yeah, the thought was because it's so important, if you're not inspecting it and you notice that there is or isn't a backflow device, you should call out if there's not one present.
Is that clear, Lee? When you read that the inspector knows that if it's installed, even if they're not inspecting it, they need to
Yeah,
check.
because we look for backflow devices on the faucets
Hose bibs and
hose
stuff.
bibs and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea, even if they're not inspecting sprinklers, just to make sure that that box is there, or notate that it wasn't visible if they don't see it. Yeah.
Next
Maybe
change.
we say visible backflow devices. If we're going to include the sprinkler one in there.
So they're not
If it's on a
visible?
public water system,
It should always be
it
visible.
should have a visible backflow.
Not on the sprinkler system. Not if that thing's been overgrown and you can't get that box open. Are you going to break the box to get it open? Just,
Well, so even like the double valves, sometimes they'll put them in a box in the ground, which isn't right, because if anytime water can sit there, get submerged, that's illegal too.
Well, you know, that we talked about this for a while, and that is a safety issue.
And some of those get buried in dirt in those boxes.
I think it's such an important safety issue that we need to, the inspector needs to try their best to make that determination, because that can contaminate the water supply. And I don't know, we had a discussion, is it required? And my understanding is that it is required, but sometimes it's not there. And when they install the irrigation, or I don't know, they might remove it or something like that.
Yeah, we're just saying if it's there or not. We're not saying if it was done correctly.
Gotcha.
Just like, is it
Just its
yeah, you have a sprinkler system. Hey, I noticed there's a sprinkler system, you don't have a backflow device.
Now, if it's on a private well, it doesn't need a backflow device, so.
I say leave it the way it is, because if you start putting visible.
It says potable water supply.
Well, if it says non-potable use, you don't have to have backflow.
Yeah, but if your water well's feeding your inside of your house.
No, if it's on okay, where I'm at, we have a lot of wells for irrigation.
Oh, you're separate, correct.
Yeah,
You're talking about you're separate,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm just saying when it's
And that
mixed,
makes me
when the
more
water for the irrigation is also
Yeah.
coming through the house. with
then
the potable water
then you're
supply.
right, yeah.
Correct. And that was a discussion we had too on that as well, about even people having but separate water well out in the country, especially.
Gray water.
I would just say maybe look at adding the word visible in there.
I would leave it the way it is. I think if you include visible, then you're giving an excuse why it wasn't checked. And it's such an important safety issue.
And then that leads to inspection of it.
Well, the problem with not putting visible is, again, sometimes when there's that base on the ground, you can't get that thing open.
But there's already a section that says if a system or component is not visible or accessible.
Okay.
So that should already cover, a situation like that.
You can always take a picture of it and say it wasn't accessible, unable to
Say
open.
not visible. No visible.
But see, we have a lot of the PVBs that are very visible.
Yeah. Next one is on what, 52?
Yep, top of page 52.
Pan materials.
Right, and that was because sometimes you'll see a plastic pan under a gas water heater, which was prohibited, but now they've actually changed it to say it has to be like a flame retardant.
Right.
The next change is a few lines down, pump motor, blower, or other electrical equipment that lacks bonding. And that's
Right.
using the same language in the pools.
Kind of in the
All right. Next is
And then cutouts.
yeah, the copy and paste. On page 58, I believe, is next.
Septics. Gotcha. And then 59, I assume. Yeah.
Shannon Gatewood, we kind of ran out of time on the subcommittee as we were going through that one. And I never got to chime in on, next one down, next page.
58, 59.
Not required to excavate or uncover the system or its components. You can't do a proper septic inspection on a conventional system unless you're excavating and uncovering the lids.
I
Right.
agree.
So would love to see that. Thank you.
Yes, I agree with Shannon.
Where
And
did this absence of safety barriers under plastic risers lids come from?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
The absence of safety barriers in plastic risers or lids, besides the wording is messed up, but where'd that come from? If it's properly fastened, you don't need the safety barriers.
Have you seen how easily those screws strip?
Oh, yeah.
The plastic lids and risers actually come with the safety rings, and I know 2 cases of young children who have actually fallen in a tank and died for lack of safety lids.
Right.
Yeah, so maybe barriers actually may need to say rings.
Yeah, safety rings.
Yeah, we couldn't even come up with the words like, what is it called?
Yeah, safety rings is
safety rings.
probably a better.
I know what you're talking about. I'm just saying, is that an actual requirement, or is this another, hey, we'd really like to see this?
It is a TCQ requirement.
I think it's appropriate, just like we do with any other code. If TREIC identifies a safety issue and wants to call it out, even if it's not in the code or any other provision, then certainly we can do that if there's a safety issue. And some of these with the septic system, we're relying on the experience of certainly the committee members and some of the comments of the inspectors who work in this area to kind of make us aware. That's the whole issue, the whole reason we're kind of going over some of these SOPs to try to see if there's something that we're missing. There's some way that we can better protect the consumer. So whenever there's a safety issue, something that I suggest we need to consider.
For those?
Yeah, but no, I agree with Shannon on the locating and exposing the lid, because if you're not exposing that lid and locating that tank, are you doing a septic inspection?
You're just
Flushing dye and praying.
No, but I think the intention was we're just telling the inspector if it's there and if it is a conventional, it is buried, you're not required to go uncovered to do the inspection. Of course, you can't do it. So we always say, no, we can't inspect the septic system because it's conventional, it's all buried, it's not accessible. And I, as an inspector, am not required to dig that up. That's what this is saying.
But you know how
It's already
many
an optional system.
septic inspection without locating?
Who would do that?
Lots of people.
That's what I'm saying. I just can't even fathom. My mind doesn't even work that way.
Yeah.
That someone would.
I have reports from other inspectors that say ran water for 30 minutes, no standing water in yard, septic is in proper working condition.
Oh yeah, that's yeah.
I can pull it up in my email right now.
Good money to.
Yeah. I can clearly tell you, it is called a walkover inspection, and they're taught by the schools and agencies to do a walkover inspection. And they count it that way. Run water for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Go out to the yard, you see any water running. This is actually coming from the schools that are teaching this. I just had an inspector tell me that in a ride along, and I went, no, you can't do that. But it should be in there. If you are going to do an evacuation, and you need to be uncovering, not a walkover.
I have open lids with collapsed walls. You run the water for 6 days and you would never have water staying in the yard.
So clearly that's an item that you guys can look at.
Well, here's
clarifying.
Here's the thing. Stephanie's not on the committee.
Right.
So, all these comments are valuable.
Absolutely.
By people who are, experienced in this area,
which is why we're having this with the whole committee. So.
And I've actually sent Randy all my suggestions. So.
And we talked about your email that you sent.
I can resend it.
No.
I actually have it up right now.
we looked at it very carefully, and we definitely considered it, and we appreciate the comment.
Right. So with that,
I read your email to the committee.
I think that all of the items that were proposed for change. So I would assume we have no action to take on this other.
No, just this is where we are. Just want to get some feedback from everyone, so we go back and so we can tweak.
Absolutely. And we can talk. This last one is going to be, we're going to have to talk about it because that's going to be, two sides to that issue.
All right. So item number 10, discussion possible action regarding property inspection report form, including the preamble. I think we've kind of touched on that already. That's the preamble hasn't been.
We haven't looked at it.
It hasn't been modified yet. The only modifications that were on the report were just the moving of the sections, which will change as the preamble's looked at and what ends up happening with that. So I think we're good in that one. Item 11, discussion and possible action regarding license reciprocity.
So this was something that was requested at the last committee meeting to be on the agenda. So we have some information we can provide to you. Denise is here. She can talk about kind of the current process. And then Brittany has actually prepared a really helpful document that actually outlines the requirements of each state in terms of inspector licensing requirements that we can walk through as well. So wherever you'd like to start.
Let's start with Denise.
All right. Denise Sample, Director of Licensing again for the record. Currently, we don't frequently get applications from inspectors who are licensed in another state, but the way the revamping of the licensure requirements that was done several years ago kind of made it very clear that if someone has been licensed in another state or passed the national exam and they submit proof of that, then the only requirements are those that are tied to the state exam, so the Texas specific course content. That's the process that's currently followed, and generally those applicants don't bat an eye at having to do that because the understanding is they do need to learn the Texas specific content and then take the Texas exam. So that's our process today, and I can answer any questions about that.
Okay, so Brittany Ramirez, I'm the Assistant General Counsel for TREIC. I just looked at the different requirements state by state, and obviously it varies greatly, but I did do a chart. I don't know if Amber can put it back up. I did a chart so that we can look at the similarities and differences per state. Not all states were regulated, and so if they were not regulated, there was no specific website that I could go to. There were general requirements of like, you should register with the Secretary of State for that state. You should have insurance coverage, but there was nothing specific for those. So I would just put a note on those, like California, Colorado. But the ones that were regulated, I did go to their websites and we broke it down by different categories. Some were very specific on their requirements and others were not. They were more general. So these are the most common categories. One category I did not put up there or I did not look at was criminal background checks. There were a handful of states that required those. But I can look at that and add that to the chart if you guys want some additional requirements on there. The things that I looked at were what kind of exams were required. Also, was insurance coverage required? If it wasn't, I didn't even touch it on there. But then also training and education. There, when I put 120 hours, for example, that first one of education, that includes classroom hours. And if there was something more specific, I included that as well. Not everybody had their continuing education requirements, but if they did list it on their website, I also included that. I'm trying to think of some other issues. Some states did have, Amber, if you just like click through, some states did have different ways to get license. You can do it by exam or you can do it by certification. So I also included that. The ones that were by certification were more reciprocity issues versus the exam way is the way that we generally do it. And then all the inspections that were required under training and education, most of them were by supervised. They had to be supervised inspections. And then some were paid and some were unpaid. I also included that. So I don't know if you guys just want to like click through and look at it, but do you have any questions?
This was not provided on the original materials. Can that be added to the website so because it is part of an open meeting that everybody can see that?
We can send it out to the committee. We didn't put it on the materials just because it was a late ad, but we can send it out to the committee.
Because I know we did that a few years back. We looked at, I'm sure some of them has changed. I know 2 states now have licensing or been working on licensing since we went through that.
Yeah, Iowa was one that's on here that they just had a bill that passed and it was effective starting July 1st, whereas they are now regulated.
Still amazing.
Ohio's the other new one, right?
So
California regulates everything.
yes, Ohio
Except
was.
home inspectors.
Yeah, Ohio's regulations are on there now.
Yeah, if we can get a copy of that, that would be great.
Sure.
It'd be nice to kind of compare and contrast. To be honest with you.
I will say Texas was by far the most detailed regulation.
It was also the most stringent, especially for a number of years. We were way over, which was kind of what prompted the governor's directive for us to revamp that a bit. So I think we were over 3 times more than everybody else. So, okay. Anybody else have any other questions on item 11? Hearing none. Request future meeting agenda items. So obviously the SOPs and the report form probably come back up. I'm certainly deal with that. Any other future agenda items?
We'll have elections in January.
Yes, you will. I'm sorry, would I have a smile on my face when I did that? I'm sorry.
Or they defaulted you to a
No.
lifetime position
We're not
on
invoking
the.
the Steve Reinhardt. You're not doing that. All right. Hearing nothing else, I'm sure other things will come up. If you have items that you want to put on the agenda, please let General Counsel know. Accommodated. All right, future meeting dates. Proposed future meeting date, January 20th.
I'm good on the 20th, but the next 3 dates, the April, July, and October, I have a conflict on those dates with another.
Or are you traveling?
No, not traveling. I'm on another board that meets on those Mondays at noon.
Let's start with the first one, January 20th. Does anybody have any conflicts with January 20th? Everybody okay with that one? Mike, you okay with that one? That sounded like a yep, so, okay.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I'm good with all of these dates so far. They're far enough out.
So the April one is the one you
April,
have.
all the other 3 for the year.
So being that that's a ways away, you guys can probably decide that at the January meeting. But if staff could have some other possible dates.
Like the 13th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe some alternative
That way they
options.
can look at their calendar and make sure.
Or the next day is the 20th.
Yeah, I do the 21st too.
Next day, is that open for staff?
The 21st. That looks
Are
like.
y'all closed for St. Jacinta Day?
No, that's a skeleton crew day, I think. I like to slowly talk about these and give Amber time to urgently message me if there's a conflict. And she hasn't so far, so looks like.
Okay. All right. So the next one is January 20th, 10 a.m. here. Okay. And then you guys, SOP subcommittee is meeting right after this, right?
Yes, we are.
Okay. All right. That'll work. With that being said, unless there's anything else, I'll meeting adjourned 11:37.
Wait, you have to do it. It's your last.
Flourish, but no.
You have to do something.
There's only 7 minutes behind. We're like target time, so we're all right.
You have to give